As you can see, I flipped my bench over and I got at least 2 sets of drawers working. But if you think it was a fun project and was successful, stay tuned and I'll tell you what happened.
I'm Scott Bain. They call me the old farmer. Back in video 67, I built the Windsor Workbench from Harbor Freight. I used Gorilla heavy-duty construction adhesive to help build a stronger workbench. But I noticed 2 things that I didn't like. The first was one of the rails was damaged and made it impossible to smoothly open and close one drawer. The second thing was that the drawers would only open about 3/4 of the way. It made it awkward to get the things in the back of the drawer. As I have mentioned before, I don't like things that I buy to argue with me. These 2 issues I would deem as arguing or fighting with me. In fact, 7 months ago, Muhammad Ali, I'm sure this is no relation to the boxer, asked if I had resolved the drawer issue. Well, I finally have, and let me tell you, it was an ugly mess with multiple tries at making it work, which I did, but I'm not happy with the results. I will again tackle this, but I have things I need to do, so I had to get the drawers working enough so that I could flip the bench over and use it. I had things spread all over everywhere, and it made it impossible to do anything. So I needed to get this finished. I ordered in what looked like replacement full drawer opening rails off of Amazon. I removed the old rails from the drawer and matched up the screw holes. I had to break the adhesive cement bonds and pull the side panel off the bench. I was very careful to match the screw holes of the old rails when I mounted the new rails to the side panel and the drawers. When I put everything back together, it would not fit. Each side of the Harbor Freight rails, when everything was put together, is about 1/32 thinner than the rails that I got, making both rails taking up a full 1/16 of an inch per drawer. The new rails were too thick to fit. I tried thinning down the side panel, which is MDF with a plastic finish all over it. It didn't work. So I took some 3/4 inch plywood and thinned it down to fit. After measuring multiple times, I pulled out my shaper and shaved off the needed thickness so that the plywood panel would be recessed into the legs. I had to do this a couple of times to get the right thickness. I did put new rails on the other side of both drawers, mounting these rails to the center MDF that held the off side of the drawer, in other words, the centerpiece. I did not do anything to the other columns of drawers. I just did it to the one side where the problem rail was. So the center MDF had new rails on one side and the original rails on the other side. This didn't work. Things just were not lining up with the rails, even though I marked the screw holes by drilling all the way through the MDF, leaving marks for the screws and the plywood. I still had thickness issues that I could not resolve. The third attempt was to cut a 1x12 board to proper length so that I would have a snug fit between the workbench legs, and carefully mounted the rails to this piece of wood without mounting the 1x12 to the bench legs. In other words, I left it floating so that it could find the proper distance. I put the drawers back in place with the side panel left floating. When I had the drawers fully closed and working smoothly, I then took a scrap of 1x1 and mounted this to both sides of the 1x12. And then, when everything was in place, I then screwed the 1x1 into both legs of the bench so that the drawer with rails created the proper positioning. I did get it to work, but for some reason the locking pin on the rails of both drawers stopped working, which means the drawers could be pulled off the rails and crashed to the floor. I have no more time right now to find out what is wrong. I flipped the bench over, reloaded the drawers and the bottom shelf, and added a generous coating of paste wax over the top. Later, I will try it again. I have only one side of the drawers with new rails, and the other two drawers have the original Harbor Freight rails. These are my conclusions. Use the floating board method for mounting the new rails if using traditional side rails. This way, it automatically sets the distance that they need to be. Maybe you might want to use bottom or under drawer rails. You might be able to get these to fit without scrapping the MDF side panel. Leave a comment if you use the bottom mount rails, or if you do attempt replacing the original rails. I think we would all like to know. This is the first time I've ever had to replace rails on a drawer. The few other times I've mounted rails, I had built the cabinet myself and then built the drawers to fit with the rails already mounted on the side cabinets. So I would say that if you do change out the rails, use the most accurate pinpoint measuring, that is the type that you would use for metalworking, and take your time with mounting everything together. And again, let us know how it turned out for you. I will try after the first of the year to again finish up this project. But for now, I need the bench. Even though I didn't succeed with the project, I thought you might want to know about the rail issue when replacing the workbench rails. Before I go, let me ask that if you think this video has been helpful, that you subscribe if you haven't already, and click a thumb. Leave a comment agreeing or disagreeing with what I said, but keep it for mixed company. And of course, let others who you think might like what is being done here know about the channel. It doesn't have to be everybody, but maybe your closest 10,000 friends might like to know about the channel. Well, this is the Old Farmer, Scott Boehm. Be well. Be safe.
Don't forget to click like and click subscribe on the Old Farmer YouTube channel, and thanks again for watching. Bye.
The VFW National Home for Children, providing families of veterans and active duty military opportunities for growth and development in a nurturing community. Please consider a donation to help their children and families. I.C. Rhodes speaking.